to a free, and we are basically in the middle of Mardukite TV Season 4, and we are basically launching off from, we've talked about some of the books that basically compose the Mardukite Chamberlains materials, and we're basically using the last of them, which was originally called Necronomicon Revelations, is now called 9 Gates of the Kingdom of Shadows, because we've edited it along with the original Liber 9, which we released in limited supply about a year ago as 9 Gates. So we've expanded on it, and we're going to talk about that. One of the things that we do with our edition of 9 Gates of the Kingdom of Shadows is essentially bring a true seeker kind of through the entire genre and what we explore more deeply. So in, like, for example, the Necronomicon Anunnaki Bible, you have much more raw data, you know, tablets as they appear, and so forth, not trying to interpret or provide that for someone, allowing them the freedom to do that themselves. Moving into Gates of the Necronomicon or Sumerian religion, we basically use the pre-Babylonian paradigm of which Babylon was based on, and then they later tried to kind of cover that up and remove evidence of the Sumerians. We then go back to that and examine what the tablets appear as from those set of eyes, and basically looking at the self-honest origins of the traditions that have evolved on the planet. Now, to do this, it requires an understanding of a particular title or name or race, or in our case, family, and that's the Anunnaki. Now, the Sumerian word Anunnaki is basically indicative of a being that's coming down from the heavens to earth. Now, this could be almost any extraterrestrial alien being that comes down. When we are dealing with the traditions that evolved on the planet, specifically the systems and religions of Mesopotamia and the ancient Middle East, we're referring to a specific family of Anunnaki. And so while the Anunnaki, it's kind of a generalized term that has come to be used, we're specifically talking about a dynastic family, heavenly family, that came down and established what they did on the planet. So Anunnaki lore and what we talk about when we talk about the Anunnaki, it is not necessarily a coverall for all races and beings and UFO phenomenon and things of that nature. What it is it's a exploration of the specific group that interacted at first with, you know, who we call the Sumerians and so forth. So understanding that, this is something where, you know, a couple hundred years ago, looking at the tablets, looking at scriptures, looking at the Bible and so forth, this is not something that people had at their disposal or knowledge of. And so this is one of those things about truth, because, you know, people are always in search of truth. Well, truth is all around you. You know, reality is one, reality is what it is, but the way that you are experiencing it, the way that your identity persona is interacting with it, these are the things that are going to inhibit or further you on seeing something self-honestly for the truth that it is. So when it comes to the Anunnaki, it essentially begins with the re-examination of the most ancient tablets on the planet, the most ancient writings, and so this is essentially what it becomes. And when we talk about the Anunnaki, we're talking about the specific class or family of beings that come down from the heavens and then seed civilization. And what's important to understand is that regardless of the semantics that we've come to associate it with it since, not only did these beings assist in the cultivation of, like, agriculture and civic development, but they appear to have been essentially the originally superior class of being on the planet that humans would call gods. So this is kind of important to understand when dealing with the interpretation now of ancient mythologies, ancient tablets, the way that people were viewing these beings, and it isn't like it was all pie in the sky. Originally, when this stuff was being set down, these were the things that were actually happening. These were, actual events that later came to be interpreted in more of a legendary sense. All the way through history, all the way through time, into things now that we associate with H.P. Lovecraft and Simon's Necronomicon, and yes, even the 9 gates of the Kingdom of Shadows. So the path taken by the seeker on the mystery tradition up until now has essentially led the seeker along a vast array of lights and images, a ladder of lights, as it were, and it leaves one tracing these phantasmal images of the material world back to their source. But it's not the glamorous procurement of further persona and personality upgrades that the seeker is really after. Rather, it's the absolution of those that you've already acquired, and are but weights essentially to keep you bound to the material world. So, the seeker passes the gates of life, seeking to bring the parts of the whole together, if they be so lucky. And too often it is the separation of the whole into more esoteric parts merely ends with further separating the person from the source. And the emphasis should not be on the bedazzlement attainable to the psyche of this world, to delight in making some geometric or symbolic link or correspondence, when all is actually connected in equality and oneness together. So it's not to be just found in one or two sacred relationships between attributes and forces, and this is never fully realized in the world of light, which we have become so accustomed to because it exists already in a state of separation from the world of darkness. And this is polarity. So just as many people succumb to the trappings of the darkness, they can also to the light, and both are existing in a duality that is contrary to the oneness that is the source. So duality is not oneness. And this is one of several of the concepts explored in the 9 gates of the Kingdom of Shadows. Edited by Joshua Free, produced for the Mardukite Chamberlains, available on the NecroGate or at Mardukite.com.